Stacking habits is not about just doing random things at the same time. It really is about choosing actions that match the version of who you're trying to become. You're trying to become healthy and fit. Well, there's going to be some habits around that, and there's probably some things that maybe are blocking you, or maybe you need a system that can really help you stick to those goals. You know, most people, they try to add habits in a life that runs on autopilot, and they rush into multitasking or hope and pray that their effort will just fix things. But transformation, and that's what you're probably looking for, right? Transformation, not just information from a podcast. Well, it doesn't come from just doing more. Sometimes people will tell themselves, I just need to show up and do it. But it really comes from doing things right, things with clear purpose. So today, I want to walk you through something you may have heard of before called habit stacking, in a way that it helps you stay grounded, not scattered. And it's not something cliche that you maybe heard before, where it's, brushing your teeth while you're doing lunges, although that could work, I suppose. But it's about training your brain to just expect progress. Ooh, doesn't that sound great? But before we do all this stuff, I do want to encourage you. If you want more energy, if you want more clarity, and you really want a strategy that supports your vision, head over to talktoperry.com. I'll pop that down in the lower third. And if you're just listening, talktoperry.com is pretty easy to remember, right? We'll map out what this looks like for your life and your situation and the habits that you have and what your current goals are. Talktoperry.com. So habit stacking, it means, in its simplest terms, linking a new habit to something you already do every day. So instead of starting from scratch, trying to figure out when am I going to squeeze in this exercise thing, or when am I going to squeeze in this mindset stuff, you use a habit that you already have. And this really, it helps your brain create a routine faster because it builds off of something familiar. And see, I started using this. I didn't realize this was called habit stacking at the time, but I started using this when I was faced with a challenge. It was the biggest challenge for me when I wanted to get in shape was starting exercise. I knew I wanted to exercise, knew I was capable of exercising. I had the exercise equipment. I had the exercise room. The hardest part for me wasn't doing the exercise. It was getting in the place and actually starting, right? So that's where I used habit stacking, and it worked amazingly. And it works because you don't have to think too hard, and you don't have to find extra time. You're just pairing a couple of actions together, so new habits become automatic over time. And so the reason why it works is it builds off of what your brain already knows, and it reduces decision fatigue. And it signals that change is happening, not someday, maybe, and I'm hoping and praying, but change is happening right now. And it only works. It only makes sense for your current season that you're in. So many people, they try to stack habits that maybe they look productive, but they feel disconnected. They wonder, why do I feel tired? Why do I feel scattered? Why do I feel burned out? And so the goal is not to add more noise or anything like that. It's really to just, to make each step more automatic, more aligned, and really more supportive for your actual goals. So for me, what I realized, it became this awareness thing where I had a full work day of teaching. I had an hour commute both ways. So after a long day of teaching, I could use that hour commute to pump myself up. But most of the time, I was talking myself out of exercise, how I could put it off, how I had other things that I had to get done. I could justify and negotiate myself out of showing up to exercise. And then on that commute, I'm like, you know what? All you got to do is just sit and relax for a while, unwind when you get home, and then go and get your workout done. I never did. I just didn't show up. Or I would be like, oh, now I don't really feel into it. And I could find another convenient distraction to occupy my time. So what I realized was that, and I started thinking, first of all, do I need this relaxation time? Now, my brain was real conflict because it was like, Of course you do. You worked hard today. You're totally exhausted. But I really wasn't. And but I could talk myself into feeling that way. So I realized I'm going to remove that part. And the habits that I stacked together, because my challenge was getting started. I'm like, how can I get making started easier? I put a series of actions together. I always got home, and right away, because the dogs have been waiting all day, they went outside, and while they, did their business, I usually went to the computer, and then I kind of sat and unwound and, relaxed for the night or for the day, that hour anyway. And then I said, you know what? What if when the dogs are out, I go and get my workout clothes on? Ooh, there's a change. And when I bring the dogs in, as they're getting fed, I'm going and back in my back bedroom and starting my exercise. Now I know that this may not seem like you're pairing two things, but that's the way I associated with was I'm taking care of the dogs, I'm taking care of me, as opposed to relaxing and motivate. So that was it. And because my biggest hiccup was just starting. Now, I made one more little non-negotiable in there, was to at least commit to 15 minutes if I didn't feel like it. And most of the time, once I committed to 15 minutes, I finished the workout. But those are the two habits that I stacked together: letting the dogs out, getting my workout clothes in, and starting my exercise. And so if your goal maybe is mindset stuff, a habit stack might look like it's when you're having the coffee made, you sit down and write a sentence about how you want to feel today, or write down your goal. It's simple, it's repeatable, it's quiet. If your goal is, let's say like me, to strengthen your health, it might be right after you close your laptop for the day, you take 5 minutes to stretch, or you decide to do a power walk around the block. It doesn't have to be a full workout. It's just a reset. So, and this kind of a silly one, if you're okay with me sharing it. There was one time where I was like, I really wanted to up my push-up game. And so what I committed to, was doing a certain number of push-ups each day. I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could do this. The habit that I stuck together, and this might sound a little bit weird, but it was like, I'm drinking a lot of water, and because I'm drinking a lot of water, I have to hit the bathroom. So after I got done in the bathroom, washed my hands, washed up, before I got to doing anything else, I banged out like 10, 20, 30 push-ups. And because I had to hit the bathroom frequently throughout the day, more push-ups were added. Do you see the habit that got stacked there? Do I do that to this day? No. But that was it for my challenge. Maybe it's every time you reach for your phone, you just take a deep breath before you turn it on. You just say, is this a distraction or a decision? A lot of times we reach for our phones as a distraction. Just that one pause, it can really create space for better choices. So mindful stacking, it really works best when the habit already exists. It's and the new one, it feels light. It doesn't feel heavy like, oh my gosh, I got to do this. And I was making the exercise thing feel heavy, and eventually it felt light. There wasn't any resistance to it. It added direction to what I needed to do. And when you go and do this, and you got to test this out, it does take some practice, just track your energy. Notice how each stack that you do makes you feel. You're not doing this for the sake of checking it off the box. After I did this for several days, I realized my workouts are consistent. I'm getting stronger. My energy's leveling up. I'm losing weight. My clothes are fitting better. I'm walking with more confidence. I mean, it was all adding up. It was all stacking. Not only the habits were stacking, but the results were too. So you're doing it to build rhythm, something that works with your life, something that doesn't work against it. And if your current habits aren't matching who you want to be, let's build that new rhythm together that feels clear, it feels consistent, and it feels doable. That's why I encourage you, head over to talktoperry.com. Let's do this together, okay? I mean, you don't need more tricks or hacks, although I do have a lot of those. You just, need to align your actions with the person that you're becoming, and that's how progress sticks. So just know you can choose to use your power, take control, use these tips that I share with you, stack those habits together, start feeling results, or you can let the negotiations, talking yourself out of it, the rationalization, justification, comparison, all that stuff control you and drain your power. It really boils down to committing. Well, first, deciding and committing, and then taking action on your goals and choosing to figure out new ways, looking at possibilities, learning and growing, and keep moving forward. You've got this, my friend. I'd love to hear your top takeaway from today. If you do have it stacked, drop those down in the comments. Let me know. I promise I will respond. You absolutely rock, my friend. And as always, remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week. That's another Power Blast podcast in the books. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, when you are ready to recharge your battery, make sure you go to talktoperry.com. That's talktoperry.com. That's Perry. And I want to listen. I want to hear, what's going on. I want to help you in that 15-minute call to recharge your battery and reclaim your power so that you're off and running and creating massive momentum toward your dream. Also, every day I am delivering more motivation, support, tips, and strategies inside my free community with amazing people like yourself. And we are conquering the mindset and the fitness. I do 52 weeks of free training in there. Plus, I coach and I mentor people, as well as give you access to tons of resources and guides. It's called my Upside Down Fitness community because we work on a lot of mindset stuff, the inside stuff. And we're a fun group of people striving to make healthier habits in this awesome chapter of life. So make sure you get in there. I promise you'll absolutely love it. Just head over to upsidedownfit.com and you can get into the group. And hey, you would be an awesome friend if you get over to iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave an honest rating and review for the Power Blast podcast. It helps awesome people like you find the show even faster, and that's who I'm looking for, awesome people like you. That's all I have for this week, my friend, and just to let you know, you absolutely rock. That's all I have for this week. I'll see you on the next Power Blast podcast, and always remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week.